My name is Cecil. I'm a men's life coach. I teach men how to self-initiate into their masculinity. Well, today I'm talking about 4 ways men give their power away and what Jesus calls being salt. At the end of Luke 14, Jesus talks about the value of salt once it's lost its saltiness. Spoiler alert, it's ineffective. It doesn't work anymore. And we think about that. I think about that for men. What makes us become ineffective? What makes us lose our power? I want to talk about what Jesus talks about in Luke 14, which is 4 ways that we routinely give our power away, thinking that we're actually doing the right thing. So if you're at some point in your career or your relationship where you feel like you're doing everything right, and yet you've watched your passion leave, your power leave, and you don't know why it's leaving, I think this could be a good clue. Rather than me reading Luke 14 to you, I'd just encourage you to go read it yourself. Take your time, go bit by bit, just sit and listen, read it, listen to yourself, ask God what he's saying to you, and let this be kind of an overall arc on what's happening when we give our power away. In the opening story in that chapter, we see Jesus hanging out with some folks who are religious folks. These are rule followers. These are the people pleasers. These are the folks who have to do everything perfect and everything right. And if you're a man in today's age and you've not had a healthy role model, odds are you are the same kind of person. If you have a bend towards perfectionism, or you grew up in a religious household, or you are religious still, or even just a devout person, it's very easy to do things the right way versus doing the right thing. In this instance, we see a group of people who are mad at Jesus about healing somebody on the Sabbath. These are rule followers. I want you to think about that in your own life. When do you insist that the rules need to be followed? Or as Dr. Robert Glover talks about in No More Mr. Nice Guy, when do you insist that there is a right way of doing something that supersedes the peace in your home? Do you see the subtle difference? Doing it the right way versus doing the right thing? Here's how you know you love doing it the right way versus doing the right thing. It's when your insistence on doing something makes other people feel bad about themselves. Not in a corrective way, not in a way that teaches them how to do something right, but makes them feel like that they aren't enough. That's how you know you have an insistence on perfectionism or an insistence on doing it the right way versus doing the right thing. The other way that men give away their power and lose their saltiness on earth is by looking for outside validation. In the story in chapter 14 of Luke, we see this group of people who are clamoring to sit at the best seats at this party and to be noticed and be seen. And we live in a time where we're looking for status all the time. We can even buy status on Instagram by getting a validated account and getting that little blue check. And there's tons of other ways that we do that on the job, on LinkedIn, in our clubs or our social places where we're looking for a way to stand out from the crowd and hope that people will validate us and our egos get that punch of adrenaline of being noticed. That is a primary way that people give away their power. They continue to look on the outside for their validation. As you know, a true healthy masculine man doesn't look to other people for validation. He looks at himself. He holds himself to a high standard. He walks into any situation with right-sized humility. He looks at his wrongs and he sees where he needs to make a correction and he admits to what he's done. He's able to apologize. He doesn't use people or glom onto people to feel loved and validated. He doesn't do that with his friends. He doesn't do that with his wife. He knows that he can hold himself in a strong, steady way. He can soothe himself when he's feeling anxious. He can reach out for help, but it's not out of validation. It's knowing that we need help from the outside sometimes. So notice that in your life. I've done this plenty of times in my life where I think, man, if I knew that person over there, or if I had coffee with this person, or if I got to know this other person, that they would fix some problem in my life. And I've come to realize it's not true. I need to show up in my relationships out of true service of friendship and true love of my brother and let whatever needs to happen, happen. I once heard a missionary tell me years ago, this was probably 20 years ago, that it's not what you know, it's who you know. And that made me pretty angry at the time because I felt like that kind of discounted my own value and the mystery of what God might be up to in a person's life. But what I did realize, what is true about that is that we need to show up for people. And we need to show up in a way that is not self-seeking, but is in seeking to help them and pursue their goals and help pursue their wholeness. So this isn't about manipulation, and it's not about getting validation. It's about mutual love and respect. It's about mutual benefit. And the third way that men constantly give their power away, and I think this might be the most common, is that we look to the urgent versus the important. A while back, I'd run into a friend of mine. I hadn't seen him in years, and this person was a really important person to me. I'd grown up with him. He was a few years older than me, and he had really spoken into my life when I was young. And in trying to catch up, I asked him how he was, and he looked at me, and I could tell there was this kind of choice that he was making, whether he like really tells me what's going on in his life or he kind of glosses over. And unfortunately, he chose the latter. And he looked at me and says, man, it's really busy. I think that's man's code for I'm overwhelmed and I don't know what to do. And I don't even know how to begin to tell you what's going on. And I don't fault him for that. I've said that many times myself. The easiest thing to do in our life is to allow the unimportant but the urgent to bowl us over and to take the best of our energy and to take the best of our attention. Jesus says in this latter part of 14 that if you really want to be effective, you've got to count the cost. You got to know what it costs to follow him and to be a servant of Christ. It's the same in your life, whether you're a follower of Jesus or not. If you really want to be effective, you have to know what it's going to cost you. And what it's going to cost you is being aware that the urgent isn't going to get you to what's important. Sometimes important things are urgent, but most of the time, it's a way that we allow our shadow self or some self-sabotaging part of us to keep us from what we truly want and keep us towards what truly matters. So if you find yourself constantly chasing emails, putting out fires, feeling overwhelmed by your home, feeling overwhelmed by your responsibilities at work, ask yourself, what is really important here? What's the most important thing? Think of a study this Australian nurse did, interviewed hundreds of patients at the end of their life. And what she got was a distillation of like the top 5 regrets of the dying. And the number one regret that men had was that they worked too hard, that they didn't pay attention to their family, that they didn't make enough time for their friends and keep up with old relationships, that they didn't allow themselves to have a good time, they didn't allow themselves to be happy. This is a huge symptom of following the urgent versus following the important. What's really important in your life? Is your family important to you? Is the love that you share with your kids important to you? Is the love that you have for God and your relationship with God important to you? Take stock of that. Check in with that. What are you putting before what is really important to your life and allowing that to steal your power and to steal your effectiveness? Now, lastly, I think this is probably the most important thing you need to hear in this whole thing is the fourth thing that steals our power is one that we actually have a compulsion to do more than any of it, I think, and that is a compulsion to stay comfortable. And the reason why we have this compulsion to stay comfortable is because we live in the most comfortable era and in the most comfortable geographic place in the world right now. If you're watching this, it's because you're living in a Western part of the world that has high-speed internet. You have access to YouTube, you have access to social media, and you're comfortable. You may have even been scrolling today. That's not a judgment. That's a fact. I have doom scrolled plenty in my life. I have followed comfort more than I haven't. That's the truth. And I know that everything that has been worthwhile in pursuing in me has been on the other side of long periods of consistency, of discipline, and a stretching effort that borders on painful and even dips into pain for a while. If you want to find one thing in your life that you can change today, of all these 4 things that has the most bang for your buck, is to notice when you are seeking comfort, when deep down you know you need to make a better choice. You can start with your food, you can start with your sleep, you can start with your relationship to your screens, and you can start with your relationship with your family. Maybe you need to have a difficult conversation with somebody, and it's just more comfortable to avoid that conversation. I know that's a massive nice guy trait, is we just avoid conflict. We choose comfort over what really needs to be done. So use this today, guys, and see where in your life you need to change. And here's the truth. The next chapter is the prodigal son. The next chapter is the lost sheep. There's a path out of this, and that is to take stock of what you've done and to be found by God and to be found by yourself. know that you can at any time say, I don't want to live this way anymore. I want to be different. I want to live in my power. I want to live in my birthright as a whole man and be effective on this earth and use this time I have, this miracle of life, this gift of life that we have that's a complete mystery, and to use it the best we can, and to not be stuck in comfort, to not be stuck chasing the urgent, to not look to other people to validate us or to attend to our needs, and to do the right thing. I hope you enjoyed this today. If you did, please like and subscribe to help other people just like you enjoy this. My name is Ron Cecil. If you need help with any of this stuff in your life, I'm a men's life coach. I've been doing this since 2015. I've been teaching men in the Christian world for over 20 years. If any of this stuff resonated with you and you're not sure what to do, I got a couple challenges for you. I've made a quiz that you can get a link from in the description down below that points out these things plus 16 other ways that men give away their power. I call it the Nice Guy Quiz. If you've not taken that quiz, please go download it now. Download the PDF. Notice where in your life that you are giving away your power. And then if you need help, reach out to me. You can book a call with me for $60 where we will get into a true coaching session in 1 hour and begin to create a roadmap and a way for you to regain power in your life. I look forward to hearing from you. Until next time, guys, grace and peace.